Right. I am very honoured to welcome the director of Not Today, Aditya Kripalani, for a Q&A. Aditya, welcome to the Q&A. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I think what
Good.
happens is when we start talking about not today, people expect a very serious person. So I feel like laughing even more because it's not like that. Yeah.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things I am going to come to a little bit later on.
Sure.
But to start with, I wanna um, take you back to your childhood. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? And what were your influences? Was there like an arts or a film background there? And where did the early influences of filmmaking and writing and even music come to you?
Ah, man, I don't really know. Uh, my great grandfather in Sindh had written a book about the poems of Abdul Shah Latif, which was called Shah Jo Rasalo in Sindhi, and that was a bestseller, a huge bestseller then. But I never met him, and I didn't know about him. And the other side, the great grandfather was at Oxford, and he was also a writer. But after that, there's been no creative person really doing things. And my grandmother's grandfather, wrote novels which remained unsold in his house. So when I was about to write my first novel, and I was about to self-publish it, she said that because she suddenly remembered that fear in their house, that the house was just full of these unsold books, and
Yeah,
in her eyes I could just see that she was like, don't do this, because she knew how it feels to be unsold, which I also know for a large part of my life. Yeah, that's all I can remember really in terms of arts influence. But I never saw myself as a creative individual till I was 21 years old. I never
right.
did anything creative. Yeah.
What was your plan before that when you were at school growing up? What did you see yourself being?
Unfortunately, because of the way our schooling system is, which is a lot about rote memory and rote learning,
Mm,
I thought I'm a very dumb person. Uh, yeah, now I think I'm stupid. I'm not dumb, but there's a difference. I mean, being
I,
stupid is why I can make these films because there is no
yeah,
scalability in them.
I'm sure we all disagree with that one, but
That's fair. That's fair. No, but you know what I mean. I mean, like Diesel had this campaign called "Be Stupid." So I think I'm able to be stupid enough to do things that without calculating the risk, which is
Mm,
nice.
mm,
Yeah, so I just saw myself as this very dumb person till then, and I decided to do commerce because in India at that point when you weren't intelligent enough to do science,
mhm.
and for arts you needed a really low score. So people thought that really, that's just how it was. You were like, you got into arts, was your score really bad?
Yeah,
So I did commerce because that was what I could do with a 60% aggregate.
mhm,
And the only good thing that came out of that was, and it's not only good thing, but my point is I met Shweta in college. I met Shweta when
right.
I was 17, and I didn't realize that it's going to also be the best business decision of my life. Like
You didn't.
I'm on a dependent pass in Germany. When I go to Bombay, I live in a mother's house, and she's my producer. I mean, is this a good business decision or not?
So you met the producer of your films as well, and you didn't
Yes,
realize that.
yes. Yeah, that's all. I was just telling someone yesterday. They said, "What did you look at Shweta and what was it that you?" I was like, "I was 17, man. I thought nice legs and nice smile. I mean, what more? I mean, I'm a guy and I was 17. When I grew older, I was like, man, I've met the best woman in the world. But it took me a while to figure that out. I just thought, nice smile and all. That's how old I was.
You figured that out now, yeah?
Now, I mean, yeah, now it's just about learning to be worthy of that, which is a year on year process. I don't think I'm there yet, but my best self deserves Shweta. So I'm getting there slowly, hopefully.
Good, good, good. Now,
Yeah,
alongside films, you write and you're a musician as well.
I would
Um,
call myself that, but thank you.
but I mean, which one of those takes precedence? Because you made your debut, if I'm not wrong, in 2017 with as a filmmaker
Yeah,
with Tikli and Laxmi Bomb,
that's true.
and you've made 4 films since then.
Technically five because we've just finished seeing the first cut of the fifth one, which is in English, and it was shot in Singapore.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
So, but yeah,
so
four
that's
films, four
so.
complete films.
Would you say now that the filmmaker in you is taking precedence over the writer and musician?
I don't know that. I don't. Maybe not yet. I think it's still
Okay.
writer first. Though I know that now when I'm writing a draft of screenplay, also I tend to do a lot more of treatment in my head of what am I
Mhm.
going to do with this. Um, but I think it's still writer. I think I'll always be a writer first, and I think the answer for me to cope with life. It's also because filmmaking depends on so many other people. And let's say if I'm anxious, like someone who plays the sitar, for example, if I'm going through anxiety, which I do, obviously, I couldn't have written Not Today without that. Uh, if I'm going through anxiety, then I can't make a film to solve that, but I can
Sure.
write to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because it has to be an art form that is very personal and singular, and with which you can have a one-on-one relationship.
Mm.
That has to be the mainstay, I think. So I'm always a writer first
Mhm.
in that sense. Like I can
Okay.
write 8 scripts a year, and I don't need 2 rupees also for that. But to
Yeah.
make the damn thing is a nightmare. So, yeah, that's right.
Now, with your writing and with the films that you've made, it's been reported that your work as a whole, it's got a social angle to it, and there's um, an element of it that is about bringing change. Now, is that something that is conscious when you start a new project, be it something you write, be it something you make, or is it something that comes out as part of the story that you want to tell?
I don't know actually the answer to that because when I was younger, I used to be very aware of it. When I started making films, I was much more aware of it that
Hmm.
this is what who I want to be and this is what I want to do. And the last 2 years, I mean, it's very strange, but after making Not Today, I felt like committing suicide. So it was very because of my asthma. My asthma got really bad, and I was in Singapore, and I felt very caged because the government was not allowing us to leave. It was like if you leave, you can't come back. It was
Hmm.
like Australia. So
Hmm.
that whole feeling of feeling caged and not knowing how to get out of that, and I
So
couldn't
that
breathe
was
every day.
during the COVID
Yes,
lockdown time.
yes. So that was one day when I was suicidal, and I ran towards the window, and thankfully I just stopped because when I touched the ledge of the window, I felt like stopping
Yeah.
because I realized, what are you doing?
Mm.
But had I realized that 1 second later, then I would have been in the air. Then I would have regretted it in the last couple of seconds. And that's basically how it would have played out.
Mm.
Uh, but what was I saying before this? This is just such a dramatic thing that even though I'm trying to use this just to say, something else,
Yeah.
I kind of pause. What were we talking
It
about?
was
I'll
it
link
was
back.
whether the element of bringing change in your work, whether
Yes,
that's conscious or whether
yes,
it's
that's
just
right.
a side effect of the stories that you want
That's
to
right.
tell.
That's right. So I think what's happening is why it's become more subconscious is because last year I had to sit down and tell myself that the happiness that I seek from the validation that I expect from the films I make,
Hmm.
I need to access that happiness like that. Like it can't depend on the films. It can't depend on the work. And I am not my films.
Hmm.
One part of me is my films. Maybe in some case, some of the purest parts of me are my films, but that's not it. Like being Anuradha's father figure or, like a godparent to her. She's one of our ADs. And now, my Instagram says Shweta's husband and Anuradha's father. I mean, that's how I see myself. Being a son to my parents, which includes Shweta's mother and my Masi. So this is my core family. And then right after that is also my mama and his wife. And, so
Sure.
that being part of that family, this family,
Hmm.
is also a large part of where I want to seek my happiness from in the next 20 years of my life.
Hmm.
So that clarity is why we were able to move to Germany. Otherwise, which idiot is going to, in the middle of his career, move even further away from Bombay? It's even more complicated.
Yeah.
So that's what. So that has made. So from now, and why I said all that is now what I'm writing is a lot more personal,
Hmm.
but it still is social in some sense.
Right.
So it's a lot more subconscious now. I'm not doing it. Like Not Today, I didn't try to. Not Today, I was trying to make a father-daughter film.
Mm.
And of course, I wanted to make a film about suicide also because we've lost people to suicide. But I wanted to make a father-daughter film in a way that if both those people don't accept that relationship in their life and
Hmm.
realize that it's very, very important, uh, they're doomed
Mm.
in some sense, doomed
Sure.
psychologically almost. Uh,
Yeah.
and I realized that it's so interesting that after I made Not Today, I was reading because I'm a big fan of Jung and his ideas of psychology, and I was reading this line from him, and where he said, "The evolution of the libido is fatherhood." And I was like, it's such an interesting line, such an
Mm.
interesting. But anyway, I can just ramble on.
No, no, please do, please. That sort of brings us nicely on to Not Today.
Hmm.
And I suppose you kind of partially answered this, but to me, it felt like a very personal film. Was there a specific? I mean, you said that you've lost people to suicide, but was there a specific event? Was there a specific driver to make that film, or was it more, exploring the topic of suicide and telling the father-daughter story, like you said?
It's a film like now when we release the film first starts with the thing for Anuradha. So the film is, it is a dedication to Anuradha, who has come in, and I always feel that fathers are born in the way daughters look at them, because you are not pregnant and you don't feel those hormonal changes, and it's for all fathers. And I've gone and asked a lot of my friends who become fathers after. So when did you start feeling like a father? And they say when you held the child for the first time, the child looks at you. Yeah. And it could be even a few days after the child is born. It's not necessarily on the day that the child is born. So I realized that it is in the fact that this young lady came in and looked at Shweta and me as godparents of some kind, or parent figures of some kind, that it was born. So yeah, to me, that is why it is personal. That is how it's personal. And other than that, of course, I lost a friend to suicide. Shweta has lost a relative, very close relative to suicide. So it is connected to us in that sense. We know how it feels. But that also made me wonder. Actually, it also made me wonder what suicide prevention counselors go through. Because, and that's why I wanted to make a film about someone who's a very emotional person and ends up becoming a suicide prevention counselor, which is actually not a great combination in some sense.
Yeah. Do you think in India, in particular in Indian cinema, do you think it's a topic that hasn't really been looked at? Because when I saw the film,
Yeah,
I couldn't remember seeing any other Indian film where suicide as a topic is dealt with alongside kind of the mental health issues in any sort of detail.
Yeah, you're right. It hasn't. We haven't. I couldn't think of any film that has dealt with suicide as a mainstay, as part of its main topic, which is really surprising. Really surprising, because we've had 135 or 40 years, 140 years of cinema, and yeah, I don't know how.
So when it came
100 years,
to kind of writing the film, where did you kind of draw inspiration from? What were your influences specifically for this project?
Richard Linklater is. I'm a fan, which is obvious, and I'm heading there clearly. And as you see more of the work, it's more and more. I mean, because I come from Indian cinema, I still have to have a plot, but I'm headed towards Richard Linklater in some sense.
Sure.
I'm also a fan. The other person I'm a big fan of, and that's probably why my films have that socialist angle also, is Daniel Blake, man. Imagine I have not seen his work now in so long that I'm forgetting.
Ken Loach.
Yes, I'm a huge fan of Ken Loach. I've seen all his older films also, and everything had a socialist bent of it, and in such a beautiful manner. Even the one he made about delivery drivers, Sorry We Missed You, which was the newest one, but even the older ones, which were about the union work in the. I thought it was so great. And there was this Mike Leigh film Mike Leigh film. I can't remember the name. It had something to do with time. About time, almost time. I don't remember, but yeah. So all these people have been influences. So has Aparna Sen. So has Sham Benegal. So has Goen Elani. So these people have also been great influences on, and a lot of them have a socialist bent. And I've also moved now to Germany. It's so interesting, right? And I feel so happy here. I feel so happy that there are no cars, and like everyone travels by train, and you walk around, and the primary mode of transport for so many people is a bicycle.
Yeah,
that doesn't make everyone happy. It makes me really happy. So obviously there is some kind of connection to these things. Anyway, sorry.
Do you think that sort of thing is possible in India? So, like you say about the primary mode of transport being bicycle. Now, obviously, you go in India, in Mumbai. That isn't the case. Obviously, there's cars everywhere. And do you think it is possible in a country like India to move towards that sort of thing, or do you think it's just too big, too large a population to be able to really start to make a big difference in that way?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of. I think that kind of thing comes when hierarchy is not so top of mind. And I think in our country, I'm not informed enough about the caste system. But I think it existed even before the British came. And then it was further emphasized because the British took advantage of that and kind of maybe. And the British is such a loose term. The British of that time.
Sure.
I mean, poor Britishers now are not doing anything.
You're not talking about our audience today.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean? Like that's it. And just to put this in context, I have this written on my hand, and I believe this very strongly. So, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I think because of that hierarchy, cars and things that are status symbols, and it is also why in Dubai or in America things have become such, why they are capitalist, because it's an ethos, and I think that ethos in India is the problem. It's not about of course, then you don't have roads and all, but it'll come. If you have that kind of thinking, then the roads would come, then then the pension would come, then everything would come. But you don't have that, so that I think that's the problem. That's why I don't think India can head there, because in a certain thinking we are hierarchical, and there's a that is really very strong. So.
Coming back to the film, I'd like to talk a little bit about the casting. Now, you've always had some sort of interesting casting in your films. In particular in Laxmi and Tikli Bomb, you had a lot of kind of regional actors in the film. Now, in Not Today specifically, I feel the film rests on the performances of Ruchai Namdar and Harsh Chaya, with two really kind of strong central roles. You really needed the strong performances. How did you cast the two actors? And in particular, how did you think of casting Harsh Chaya? Because I've got to be honest, when I started watching the film, I didn't recognize him. When he started speaking, I recognized him.
Yes, his voice is so well known. They both did auditions. They both did really good. So Harsh Chaya has this very, and I have to say, I really, we've had our own share of fights and whatever, but I really love the guy. Because he's got a very hard exterior, and he says just what he feels like, which is so rare in this industry. Like in one of the interviews we were talking about for Not Today, he said, "Oh, I don't understand what depression is," and that's true. That's how he actually sees it. If he's in that mindset, and he's gone and played this role, which is so great. So he came and did an audition, and he just did a great audition. Like he was in tears in the audition, and I mean, we've never used glycerine in any film, so you have to seriously feel what you felt, and you feel it 25 times. That's the job for an actor. Yeah. So he came in and gave a great audition, and even with Rucha, in fact, we had shortlisted 6 or 7 actors. We had done about 35 auditions by then. We had shortlisted 6 or 7 actors, and in my mind, I was actually already clear who's going to play the role. And then Rucha approached us, and I said, tomorrow is the last day of the audition. She said, what are you working on? So I said, I'm working on a film on suicide prevention. And she said, can I read the script? So I said, okay, I'm sending it to you, but tomorrow is the last day of the auditions, and it's a 14 page. You've seen it's like 14 pages of screenplay for a scene, and it's a lot. Yeah. And do remind me to talk to you about the shooting of the Suicide Prevention Center, which is a very interesting thing. But she came in and she, I mean, if the previous person had hit a 6, she hit it out of the park. I mean, I just couldn't see the ball anymore. That was the kind of audition she gave. And it was such a good audition that unanimously everyone in the company, the ADs, anyone who saw that audition would have said, okay, she should be the one who gets the part. Sure. So that's how she got that. That was it. Yeah, they just both did a great job. And both of them are very different people, and also very, very different actors. Harsh Chaya is very, very much more aware of everything he's doing. Whereas, like if his cigarette burns his hand, he has already figured out that it is going to reach his hand. Sure. But it doesn't look like that.
It doesn't look like that. No.
Exactly.
It looks very
I was standing there, so I know that he's figured out that he's going to burn his hand. Yeah. Because he can also do it in the next take. That's the coolness of it. Yeah. But it just looks so great. But Rucha is actually really natural like that. And what I used to do is I used to direct Rucha via Harsh. I used to not tell her much. I used to tell Harsh. Like I used to, for example, in one take, I told him that she seems to be intimidated by you. So let's play on that. And in the next take, say something really harsh. So of course that take is not in the film. But in one take, can I use a cuss word here? I don't know. I guess I can.
Go for it.
The world has moved on. So he said, "Main chutta ho gaya." So she was like, this is out of the world of the film, man. This is like from Gangs of Wasseypur, and where the fuck? But because the cameras were on, so she reacted. So she got further intimidated. So that duress that you see in her is part her being a good actor and part which is really actually stressed out. And it is only in that part when she's in the Suicide Prevention Center. Because after that, their relationship changes. So it was only there when I wanted her to be really
So the
stressed.
is this the first prevention centre, the one where she actually has the job?
Yes.
Because then
Yes.
later on she goes into the one
Yes.
where
Yes.
Ashwin also
Yeah. No,
worked
the
as well
first one.
later.
The first one.
First one,
Yeah.
yeah.
By that time, she was really into the character. Just because we shoot chronologically, right? So you always
Okay.
we always shoot chronologically. But one thing I want to tell you is that we shot the whole center scene, which is it's about 20 minutes in the film. It was 27 minutes when we were shooting it, and we edited it, cut it down. We did 22 takes of that as a single take. So each take was 27 minutes.
Right.
So from the time she enters the center and the call starts till she leaves, we did that 22 times, and the actors are just like exhausted because it went. we couldn't get it in the end of the first day.
Sure.
And we had 3 cameras at the center, and the guy was standing on the 16th floor of the same building. So we had 2 cameras up there, and we shot it together. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that Harsh Chaya was on about 9 or 10 different terraces across Bombay, and all the close-ups are on different terraces because I wanted them to be close to each other at every given point so that I can still direct them in person. I don't want to them calling someone on the phone and telling them how to. And one actor will always feel left out, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
So he was always like 100 meters away from wherever she was in Bombay on some terrace there.
Right.
That's how we shot the film. And that's also how that quality of conversation remains so natural.
Yeah.
It's not like you shot one person's thing and then you shoot someone else's thing. It's always live take.
That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask, because with the film taking place, most of the film taking place over a call, I was going to ask, did you shoot completely separately? But no, I mean, obviously not.
That's
Wow.
You're going to give me a second to put a jacket on.
Okay, no problems.
No
problems.
It's evening now, so it's got to be cold. Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
When we moved initially to a colder country, the first thing I did was to buy a lot of denim jackets because we saw Shah Rukh Khan wearing them all our life. And in Bombay, you just can't wear them, man. You become like a puddle of sweat. Yeah, that's all.
So you mentioned, going off topic a little bit, you just mentioned Shah Rukh Khan there. So with your filmmaking, and when you kind of came into the film world, did you ever think that I want to make the typical Shah Rukh Khan sort of film? I want to make something really commercial, really, masala type films, or was it always something that I wanted to tell these stories that I've been telling?
When I was younger, maybe before I started making films, and then I was much younger, 21, 22. Of course, I wanted to work with stars and all. Over time, I realized that in the system of things, it doesn't work out. That's all. And I accepted that as an adult. That's all. That was it. I just realized that it doesn't make sense. I mean, you want to do all these things, and they have different needs in their life, and those two needs don't match. And that's it. I can still love watching Shah Rukh Khan, but I don't have to want to work with him. I mean that's like Shweta and I was just watching Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge last night. Yeah. So there you go.
You never know. If you look at his earlier films, he has done films like Oh Darling Ye Hai India and Maya Mein Saab. So maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. Like, I'm writing a film about a character, or written a film about a character who's 55 now. So I would love to. Like, I would have loved to if I felt that, like, I really want to work with even an Amir Khan. So, I mean, I had tried to reach out with the story of Not Today before we started auditioning. But it's kind of difficult to get through to them also, to be fair. Not the easiest. And I think they have so many people taking that decision before it gets to them that I think sometimes it gets lost in that. And I think that, for example, someone like a Shah Rukh or an Amir, if they see the film, they might really like it, if they ever see it. But that's because you see the finished film. And it's probably difficult to get. Yeah, that's about it.
In terms of people seeing your films, how much of an issue is that in a way? And what I mean by that is, how hard is it to find the audience for it? Because, say, with your films, they go to all the film festivals, and they get screenings around the world. If I'm not wrong, I think is it only Tota Patakai Tamal that's on Netflix still?
Yeah, Tikli was on Netflix for 3 years. Then the contract got over, and now it has been re-released as a series on MX Player.
Okay.
So because the first cut of Tikli and Laxmi Bomb was 3 hours 50 minutes.
Right.
So if I had been a better businessman, I would have made it a series then, because it was 4 years ago, and Netflix was looking at series then. But I was just not a good producer. I was just a filmmaker. Now at least I'm able to wear that hat also. Yeah, so that's about it. So yes, it has been very, very difficult, and if Netflix didn't exist, I wouldn't have existed. But now I don't give any thanks to Netflix at this point, simply because its mandate has changed.
Yeah.
It's like when, thanks to NFDC, there is a Govind Nihalani. So
Mhm.
like that, I'm thankful to Netflix having existed. But
Sure.
what is Netflix? It's a name. It's those
Yeah.
people like Swati Shetty, for example, who were at Netflix at that point, who were taking certain decisions and buying films like this.
Mhm.
And it's also someone higher than her in the US who must have been deciding a certain mandate, maybe that okay, these
Sure.
are the kind of films. Let's buy the edgy stuff. Let's get known to be the cool guys.
Mm.
And then like Apple, you end up becoming the mainstay. And then when you become the mainstay, you want the numbers. So then you get influencers to be actors, and you get So first you go for Shah Rukh Khan, and
Yeah.
Shah Rukh Khan is in with Netflix. Then you go for the influencers. So you go up for the bottom of the barrel in some sense. So that's where it's at, and I have no fortunately, because I'm more than 40 years old now. I don't have any grudge against anyone. I don't get upset. When I was younger, I used to be like, oh, platform. And now I'm like, man, they are on a different journey. Your journeys collided at a certain point,
Sure.
and it's always a new. So now it's always going to be a new platform that comes in. Like at some point, a scam could only come out on Sony Live. It
Yeah.
could not have come out, and I'm 100% sure that scam would have been rejected by some other major platform. Just no one talks about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like some of the major platforms that rejected Delhi Crime also. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows the story. I don't want to get into the names, but the point is that every work of substance is made as a passion project and then really finds its release. So I know that it's the only way to make things and only way to make things happen. So you will audiences will always be limited, but again, that's a matter of perspective. Like if 500,000 people see my film, then it's a lot more than a play,
Sure.
which takes 10 years to get to that point. So it's all perspective. It's like the word tall or short, I guess.
Is there any plans to release not today, anytime soon on online platform?
We've just started pitching it around to platforms in India.
Mhm.
It is on Filmin in Spain, and it's been doing all right. We've been getting the count of views and what kind of reactions they have. And I'm really glad to know that people in Spain have been liking the film and are able to feel for it the way we intended.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, that's been great. I didn't expect that,
Mm.
because it's such a wordy film that you
Yeah.
would imagine that a lot of the beauty is lost when you're translating,
Sure.
but it's not.
Sure.
So that's been great, because you already have nothing happening to hook anyone. It's just
Yeah.
getting to know those people better, and then you lose language also.
Yeah.
And still it's work. Like, I mean, just of course, these numbers finally are numbers to understand what people are feeling. But
Mhm.
on Filmin, it's a 7.8 on 10.
Right.
And for an audience that has nothing to do with this language, I was very surprised. I thought that the
Mm.
language would really harm it, but it hasn't.
Mm.
So that's nice to know.
Now, one of the things about the film that I felt that alongside Aliah and Ashwin, I felt Mumbai was one of the characters of the film.
Yes. That's true.
Was it a deliberate decision to film in Mumbai? Because the theme of the film, and this kind of goes in with what you're saying about how the film's doing in Spain. The theme is actually quite universal. The characters are quite universal, and it could have been set in any city in the world, and you could have the two same characters. So was it conscious to have it set in Mumbai?
I think I understand people in Mumbai and their lives, everyday lives, much better, because I've spent most part of my life there.
Mhm.
But I also feel that because Mumbai, I'm guessing like LA or definitely like New York, and a lot like London, it feels like a treadmill
Mhm.
all the time. And you feel if you're not running fast enough, you're going to fall off. And I think that ends up leading to feeling like you're not good enough, or like you're not doing enough. And this feeling of dissatisfaction much easier
Mhm.
than living in a smaller town. And so like, I feel not today, for example, like I could totally remake this film in New York
Sure.
with American actors. Like, I find in that sense it's really universal. This
Mhm.
same phone call can be, and with the same backstories without too much change, because I feel that this situation just lends itself so beautifully across the world. But I think big cities in that sense, and it's just that Bombay is a big city that I've known the most. I still can't straight away say I like Bombay. It's very difficult for me to say that, even though I feel so bad about that. So I love Bombay, without the people. But what is Bombay without the people? So it's complicated, no? Like
Sure.
if you take all that mad population, 21 million people out of Bombay, it'll be a nice city. But then all you like there
But
is
then it won't be the city
relationship
either.
you make. Yeah, exactly. So I have a love-hate relationship with Bombay, and that's basically it. So I think that's also why I have it in the film. It's probably also where I would have felt my lowest lows as an artist. So it's not surprising
Right.
that I choose that for this film.
Hmm. And are there any plans to remake it in America?
No, I mean, first you got to bring the poor thing out as it is. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I really want to do a play with this at some point,
Mhm.
because I think it lends itself really well to theater also.
Would
Because
that be in Germany or
no, that would
or
again
India or?
be in India only mostly. Like if I had to do my first play as a director, I would love to do it with this because I think the script itself lends itself very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's
Definitely.
it's a strange thing to say because you forever trying to make it more cinematic. In fact, one of the reasons that she gets him to talk about his life
Yeah.
is, of course, it worked in the script for the characters, but it was also because I knew that if one person doesn't move, this could be a very boring film. Like basically, that was it. Like visually, I needed someone to move around.
Move around. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you got some changes, and there were a lot of nice touches in there, like the cassette recorder in the bar. So again, is that something that comes from your personal experiences?
Old men and women always get nostalgic. And I'm 40 plus, and it's starting, man. It's happening all the time. So
I got nostalgic when I saw the tape recorder. I thought I still
yeah,
have
that's it.
cassettes, so I'm with
That's
you
it.
on that one.
That's it, man. Totally. That's it. And it's also like I wanted to take, Rabi Shergill has sung this Baba Bulle Shah thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we also got that redone because we changed the tune and because you
Sure.
can't use the tune, but the poem is by Baba Bulle Shah. So we took the poem and we kind of got that redone. So there are these small things also coming from my old childhood and songs and pieces of music that we heard. Then Shweta and I are in the film. That's something that now I started. It happened accidentally with Tikli and Laxmi that someone had to open the door.
Yeah.
And in Tikli and Laxmi, most people didn't catch it. But in Tota, it was that we were somewhere back or beyond. We needed some. I just thought, okay, what if someone else is saying this and then Shalini and someone come in, and so then I was the only one to do it. But from then onwards, I've just been doing it for fun. I'm like, okay, let's just get into the film. Anyway, people keep saying, is this autobiographical? And so I was like, okay, now let's have fun with that.
So you're doing a bit of a Alfred Hitchcock or some Hushkahain or your films
Yeah,
now.
maybe you could say that. And Shweta was also in it, so that was fun.
So we are running out of time, unfortunately. So my last question for you: what is next? What is it? You briefly said you've moved on to your next film. Can you tell us a bit about that and what else have you got planned for the future?
So the film that Shweta and I shot by hand, and so if you all hate the cinematography, you know who to blame. We both, and I've been quite a technology averse filmmaker till now, which is very strange. Even though I do my own short division along with Aditi, but so Shweta and I just because Singapore is not allowing us to get anyone in and let anyone go out. So they were like, okay, you want to make a feature film? Your total cast and crew has to be 5 people. So we made a feature film with a total cast and crew of 5 people. That means Shweta and I had to do the camera. There were 2 cameras. They were like technically a Netflix approved camera. They were cameras that are, and I also did sound recording.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I was handling sound and shooting and directing the actors. So we made a film about the sugar daddy industry because the first man who started a sugar daddy website is from Singapore. Singapore doesn't like to say that. So we made a film about the sugar daddy industry called Grand Sugar Daddy.
Okay.
It's conversations of this old man with various younger girls who are sugar babies. So that's one that we've made. And the next one I want to make is called Impulse, and it's between an actor and a banker.
Right.
So that's something I want to make. So we've just started the casting process for it, started to send the script out and have conversations with actors, and then we'll start auditions. Yeah, that's basically where we're at.
And is that one still based in India as well, based in Mumbai or?
No, Impulse is going to be shot between Frankfurt and Mumbai. So that's basically 2 simultaneous teams.
Right.
Shooting in both countries at the same time. I don't know how we're going to pull it off, but it's a nice story, and I think it also again deals with that whole "I am everyone, I am no one" idea in some sense. Yeah, that's all.
we'll look forward to that, and hopefully when that releases, we can get you here in person.
Yes, that would be so good. Be great. Thank you.
Aditya Kripalani, thank you very much for your time. It was
Thank
great
you, man.
speaking
Thank
to you.
you. It was very nice talking to you too. Have a
Thank
good
you so much.
evening or morning. All right.
Thank you.
Evening. Thanks, man.
Thank you.